Nope. The show will begin shortly.
Yes, we're looking forward to all of you coming in. And, oops, I should turn that down. All right. We have a great guest today. Make sure you guys tweet this out and share it with your people on Facebook and Twitter because, it'll be really cool. I'm telling you, it really super will be. And what did you name the show, Randall?
Okay. The name is the Blog Talk.
Awesome. Okay, good. That's awesome. Okay, so
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
So thou, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, thou shalt hear the word of my mouth, and warn them from me.
Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Middle Tennessee and examining current events from a biblical perspective, this is Bible News Radio with your hosts, Randall and Stacy Harp.
All right. Hey, everybody. Want to welcome you all to this episode of Bible News Radio. I heard an echo. I don't know where I heard that from, but anyway. I want to welcome everybody to the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. And you know what? Today we have just a really one of my favorite people that I've interviewed over the last decade. I've had her on a couple of times. But if you guys are brand new to our show here, especially those of you on Periscope, you're in for a treat. Not only because my guest is an expert on the topic of Islam, but she's also a follower of Christ, and she's been on both sides. And so I just want to ask you guys to share this out right now while you can, and I want you to continue, if you don't mind, to share this through the show because, a lot of people aren't going to see your first tweet or your first share on Facebook, and this is a real important message to get out. And the reason why is because our liberal media, including our last president, did nothing but promote Islam as a peaceful religion, which it's anything but. And we're not here to bag on people who are Muslim. In fact, we're here to help nurture people in that so that they can come and see who Jesus is, who the real Prince of Peace and the real person that loves them no matter what. They don't have to work for his approval. So I want to thank all you guys coming in and just ask also you pray for me because, as you know, I've been sick all week and hopefully I don't, have to blow my nose a million times like I did earlier this week. And I want to start the show by sharing with you our evangelism quote of the day. As you know, if you're a regular viewer, this year is the year of evangelism, and we are encouraging you to arise and evangelize in 2017, which is right now. And I believe God's bringing in totally a whole bunch of new believers this year, and it's gonna be so cool. Just so you know. Anyway, so here is our verse of the day, and I picked this verse specifically because of our topic today. It's from 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, and it says, and this is the King James Version, "For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." And so the question is, how can we use this to share the gospel? Well, let me tell you. Most people I know struggle with fear. And, I like to use that acronym, false evidence appearing real, right? And who's the one who likes to make us afraid except the devil? The devil likes us to be afraid of everything. He comes to kill, steal, and destroy. He wants to kill you. He wants to steal your joy from you for sure and your salvation. He wants to destroy you in any way that he can. And yet this is the truth. The truth is that God hasn't given you a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. And you can encourage people who are struggling and say, hey, do you know that God will give you a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind? You don't have to be in bondage to fear. And this is how you can know. And then you share Christ with them. It's a totally cool way to share the Lord with people. So anyways, I just want to say, check that out, share that out, and be encouraged by the word of God, because that's what Jesus is the word, so that's why he came, is to set us free. Also, we want to thank our sponsor, Ariel Ministries. If you are new to our show, let me just say that Ariel Ministries is the ministry of Dr. Arnold Fruchtenbaum, and he is a Messianic Jewish believer. He is a guy who believes Yeshua, Jesus, is his Messiah, and as most people know, that Yeshua is the Messiah. Anyway, the Jews, their eyes were blinded, but now he sees, and so he set up this ministry, Ariel.org, to seek to evangelize the Jews and disciple Gentile believers alike, and you can save 20% on any of their material when you use the coupon code Bible News. And don't forget also that they have Camp Shoshana, which is every year, and this year it's in July 8th through August 19th, up there in the Adirondack Mountains of New York. And don't forget, you can also check that out if you need funding help. They actually have scholarships you can also check into, and I actually want to encourage you to do so, because it's really super important that you go somewhere where the Bible's being taught, and this is definitely a biblical ministry. So I want to thank you for checking that out. All right, now let's get on to the topic of the day, because this is cool. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our guest. Nonie Darwish is a human rights activist, and she was born and raised in Gaza and Cairo as a devout Muslim, and lived as a Muslim for, I believe, over 30 years. She's the daughter of an Egyptian army lieutenant general who was called a shaheed. Did I say that right? I did? Yes. Okay. Or a martyr by the Egyptian president Gamal Abdel Nasser after being killed in a targeted killing by the Israeli Defense Forces in 1956. It says here, Darwish blames the Middle Eastern Islamic culture and the propaganda of hatred taught to children from birth for his death. In 1978, she moved with her husband to the United States and converted to Christianity. She's the director of Former Muslims United, a senior fellow at the Center for Security Policy, the recipient of the Claire Booth Luce Policy Institute's Women of Exceptional Courage Award, and the author of numerous books on Islam, Sharia law, terrorism, the Arab-Israeli conflict, and women's rights. Her book, and I'm going to get this right because Nonie, I know everybody always messes this up. Now They Call Me Infidel. Why I Renounce Jihad for America, Israel, and the War on Terror. Cruel and Usual Punishment. That's the one that I always mess up there, because everybody always says cruel and unusual punishment, but it's not. It's cruel and usual punishment. Terrifying global Islamic law. And The Devil We Don't Know, The Dark Side of Revolutions in the Middle East. And today, as I've been telling all you guys for a week now, the new book is Wholly Different, Why I Chose Biblical Values Over Islamic Values. You guys are going to check this out. This is an awesome book, and I'm not kidding you. It's awesome. And anyway, it was with distinct pleasure and honor. I'm humbled that you would come back on our show, Nonie, and thank you for coming back. Welcome. Wait, we gotta unmute you. Okay, now I think you can talk. Me.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I just welcomed you to the show. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I said, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yes. Well, I'm so glad you're here, because there's nothing better than than an eyewitness the stuff that we're going to talk about. And first of all, I want to know how you're doing. Last time. Oh, probably.
Sorry.
Is there a delay? There must be a delay. So I was just wondering how you're doing.
Oh, I'm doing great. It's just a pleasure to be with you. I'm looking forward to this interview.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, let's start this way. Because there's a lot of people who don't know who you are. And what camera, Randall, is she looking at? That one or that one? Which one is she looking at for me? That one. Gotcha. Okay. because there's two
Broadcast
cameras.
is
I
it.
want to make sure you're looking at me. I'm looking at you. Okay. All right. Anyway, so since we last talked, you've written this book, Wholly Different, and I want you to give people just a thumbnail sketch of what your life was like when you were a Muslim.
Well, I was born and raised as a Muslim in Cairo, and I grew up in the Gaza Strip. And the reason I was in Gaza is because my father was in the military intelligence. His job was to start the Fidaiyin operations against Israel. The word Fidaiyin means a Fidai is a man who sacrifices his life for jihad. And they actually succeeded in penetrating inside Israel and causing death and destruction. And Israel had to protect itself, and they actually killed my father. So I really grew up in the heart of the Arab-Israeli conflict. And I remember as a child hiding under the bed, thinking it's going to protect me from the bombing that we heard almost daily sometimes. So I lived under Islamic law in Cairo after my father died, but people in his funeral, people came to congratulate us that he's now in heaven, in the Islamic heaven, because he died as a shaheed. And as a child, I told him, I don't want my father to live in heaven. I want him to be here with us. And now looking back at it, comparing the values of Islam and the Bible, the number one duty of a man who follows biblical values is God, family, country. Under Islam, values are just the opposite. Is Allah, jihad. So everything is sacrificed for jihad. It's not just a man's life sacrificed for jihad, but the woman's life as a wife sacrificed for jihad. The children are sacrificed for jihad. The whole family unit is sacrificed for jihad. And that is a basic difference between biblical values and Islamic values. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is a priority of Islam. Under the Bible. Under Islam, that is not priority. The priority is to expand Islam and Allah's power over non-Muslims and non-Muslim nations, to create the Islamic State and to live under Sharia. Islamic State, the Caliphate, thus assumes the role of Allah. So the Allah of Islam, the God of Islam, abdicated his authority to be God on earth to the state, to punish people and to sacrifice them for the expansion of that state. Totally different from values of the Bible, which places family as number one after God.
Right. And that's important to understand, I think, everybody. And everybody, I want to thank you guys for coming in. I just want to give some shout outs here to our live streaming people. We see Jennifer and Forrest and Mia and Melanie and Vicky and David and Dorothy and a whole bunch of other people. So thank you guys for sharing this out. This is a great testimony, you guys. And I'm just telling you that you're going to want to get the book. The book is Wholly Different: Why I Chose Biblical Values Over Islamic Values by Nonie Darwish, who is our wonderful guest today. And, she's just sharing, if you came in, that, she was born a Muslim and her dad was a martyr, and she eventually became a Christian. So, of course, that's my next question. How did you come to Christ? Because this is powerful, I think. And this is in the book.
It wasn't as easy as people in the United States presume that you can just become a Christian. But it is so incredibly difficult for a Muslim because under Islamic law, anybody who leaves Islam must be killed. So Islam is the only religion on earth that kills people who leave it. So it's ingrained in us from birth that we can't even think about leaving Islam. We can't even imagine that. The reason is being a Christian is a personal relationship with God. It's a choice a person will make. In Islam, when you're born, your birth certificate is stamped Muslim by the state. So your loyalty to Islam is equivalent to a loyalty to the state. And if you leave Islam, you have committed a crime not only against Allah, but against the Islamic State, Caliphate. And this is the Caliphate that Muslims are trying to advocate all over the world. And they don't understand that it is the right of the Caliphate to kill those who leave Islam. So the West is inviting in it an ideology that is totally against not only biblical values, but values of our Constitution and our freedom and our Bill of Rights. So when I came to America, I was uncomfortable with Islam because when I went to a mosque here, first time I go to a mosque in the United States, I was told don't assimilate. Don't assimilate in America because we are supposed to Islamize America. I felt very uncomfortable because it takes more energy and effort not to assimilate in a country that you're living in than to assimilate.
Sure.
It's more natural to become like the society around you. That should, do in Rome as Romans do.
Right.
Because it comes naturally. So for Muslims to come to America and advocate don't assimilate and live in a bubble called Islam until we conquer everybody is, in my opinion, huge. But the West doesn't pay attention to it. And that's one reason I stopped going to the mosque, and I lived for 17 years without a religion in the United States.
Wow.
But I sent my children to a Christian school. And I noticed that they come with good values. And I was happy for that. But I still didn't want to go to a church. I was afraid because it is dug in your psyche that you leave Islam, you're dead. And finally, one morning I was watching TV and flipping channels, and I saw Christian preachers, and they were saying incredible preaching things I've never heard under Islam. For example, we're all sinners. That was a revolutionary statement because in Islam, they are all sinners. We are Muslims. We are innocent, and they are the sinners. Muhammad totally misunderstood the Bible. He could not understand it because the idea that people admit their sin in the Bible, whether they're Jews or Christians, both Jews and Christians admitted their sin in the Bible and asked for redemption. That is a biblical value. Muhammad did not take that as a virtue. He took it as an admission that you are a sinful person and you have admitted it. And that's why you have to change your religion and become Muslim. And we Muslims have the duty to fix you. because you admitted your sin. So that's how they view Jews and Christians. Instead of appreciating, admitting sin and going beyond it and flourishing and be a better person, Islamic values are just the opposite. In fact, in Islam, there is hadiths that state clearly, and I said them in my book. Islam and Muhammad command Muslims to conceal their sin.
Yeah.
Can you believe the burden of the guilt that Muslims are carrying and unloading it on non-Muslims? And that is what I noticed right away when I heard a pastor saying, we're all sinners. That was a revolution for me. Because another thing about sin, and this is one of my early chapters, the sin factor. The way Islam regards sin and the Bible regards sin is just the opposite. Totally. Muhammad actually gave himself the right to be immune from sin. So he can sin as much as he wants, and whatever he does becomes the law. So he marries a 6-year-old girl, consummates the marriage as 9. This becomes the law of the age of marriage for a girl. And it doesn't matter whether this is a good value or not a good value. It doesn't matter. He's immune from sin. So when I went to a church and I heard that, I said to myself, I don't care if they want to kill me, let them kill me. I'm going to church.
Wow.
And I went to the church, and my life has never been the same again.
Wow. And you know what? I have to say, and to all of our people here who are listening, we have a couple of people coming in saying Muslims, Muhammad is the best of all, and all that. And I'm glad that you're here. You who are in here saying that, I'm glad you're here because I want you to hear the message that Nonie is sharing with you, because this is the gospel truth, But I have to commend you too, because the courage that it took for you to do that, I don't think people know unless they've done that. I've interviewed former Mormons. I know there's parallels between Islam and Mormonism, especially for women. That bondage that you're under, that works-oriented bondage, and the fact that here, if you leave, you could die. Right? I mean, think about that, people. Think about that.
And those people who are saying Muhammad he's perfect. Okay. What kind of a perfect prophet kills without mercy and tortures and terrorizes anybody who criticizes him?
Yeah. Exactly.
What kind of a perfect prophet is that? And what kind of religion actually has a law in all the schools of Sharia, by the way, no exception, whether you're Sunni, Shiites, whatever, any school of Islam must kill apostates. What kind of self-confidence does that religion have in itself? Because if you are forced to kill those who leave you, this is like an insane person who, if your husband wants to leave you and divorce you, go shoot him. That's how Islam is. Islam does not have confidence in itself to be so lacking in self-confidence that you have to kill those who leave it.
Yeah,
and by the way, not one religion on earth, not even the Mormons, actually physically kill those who leave it.
Right. And that's a great point. I'm glad that you pointed that out. We actually have a couple people in here who are kind of arguing with your point, but that's okay. I don't care. I actually want to ask you a couple of questions, and I know they're tied to your book, but maybe kind of on the outskirts. I know one of the things that I've heard is that Islam wants to take hold of America, wants to overtake America by 2020. I heard this a couple of years back, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, Islam is not like the Bible. Islam is all about controlling government to enforce Sharia on people. So it forces itself on people through government. So Islam without government is like a terrorist without a gun.
Okay.
Okay. So you have to, Islam has to control government. And because of that, it's very different from the biblical values, because Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world." So he was not put on this world to form a world government called the Jesus government on earth. Muhammad has to control government, and he actually was not only a prophet, but he was a warlord. He was a warrior. He ruled wherever he was, and he was committed that all Jews and Christians, by the end of his preaching, were going to be out of Arabia.
Okay.
And he succeeded. He succeeded in his mission of making Arabia an Islamic state before he died. So this is another major difference between Islam and the Bible.
Yeah. Well, and that makes sense. And so I know in your book you actually talk about how, Islam and basically what we see of Islam is not the final, thing that they're planning here for America. Can you elaborate more on that?
Absolutely. For instance, when I came here, I was told don't assimilate.
Right.
Because we are here to Islamize America. And they were aiming at penetrating the government. That is not my opinion. This was found actually in the documents of the Muslim Brotherhood, the Holy Land Foundation of the Muslim Brotherhood plan in America. So go read the quotes that we are here to make America an Islamic state. So that's not my opinion. Go to the Holy Land Foundation, go to the documents of the Muslim Brotherhood on their plan in America. The kingdom of God is not of this world is a biblical value. In Islam, Allah and the Islamic states are one. So Allah gave the Islamic state the right to enforce his laws, Allah's laws, which is Sharia, on people, to force Islam on people and kill anybody who leaves Islam. And that is totally opposite to our Bill of Rights and our Constitution. In our Constitution, government serves the people. This is a biblical value. Jesus didn't kill anybody, didn't force anybody to believe in him. In fact, he was cleaning the feet of the disciples. He was serving them. And that's what the Bible advocates. Government serves the people. In Islam, people serve the government. Allah and the Islamic State are one. It is not the same thing. It's exactly the opposite. And that's why when Muslims conquer a nation, they immediately control the government. And that's how they force themselves on the people, collect the jizya, and with making them humiliated. They have to pay the jizya while being humiliated. That is in the Quran. And that's not my opinion. So if you have any Muslims who says, oh, but that's not really, go read your Quran. Read the verses on the Ahl al-Zimma, that's in Arabic, which is the dhimmis, and how they pay the jizya, and how they have to feel to be paying it while being humiliated. So how does this all happen? It all happens through government enforcement. And that's why when Congressman, the first Muslim congressman, what's his name, from Minnesota?
Keith Ellison.
Keith Ellison, on the night he won the election, there were cries of Allahu Akbar in the audience. Allahu Akbar. Because he was the first stoned in the Congress. He's the first stone in the Congress. They want to send a message.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And see, I think that's really powerful. I mean, one of the things that I've shared with our audience here numerous times that we have Sharia law already enshrined in our government because of Keith Ellison and others. I don't think he's the only Muslim in our government now. And I do believe that our former president was a Muslim, contrary to what some people think. But that concerns me.
He loved Islam. Okay, what? I don't want to put a label on Obama.
Okay.
But the man clearly had defended Islam more than blacks in America. He defended Islam more than America. He defended Islam more than the Bible. He defended Islam more than anyone, with passion. So to me, whether he calls himself a Muslim or not, that's besides the point. He stood in the United Nations and he said, I will not, Islam, there is no, the future does not belong to those who criticize or slander the Prophet of Islam. That is practically Sharia law regarding defamation of Islam. He was talking about Sharia law in the United Nations. So you're right. Sharia law was being advocated by Obama.
There you go. And I just have to say that the apparent Muslim who's in our chat room is he's telling me to tell you that you, instead of saying Muhammad, you're supposed to say the Prophet Muhammad. How would you respond to that?
No, he's not my prophet. Sorry. You can say whatever you want. I'm not a Muslim.
Yeah, there you go. See? All right. So there's so much more. There's so much more in this book, everybody. I have to again tell you the name of the book is called Wholly Different: Why I Chose Biblical Values Over Islamic Values by Nonie Darwish. And this book it's packed. It's so packed, and I want to encourage you to get it. And if you go to Arabs for Israel, is it .com? .com, is that's your ministry or your website?
Yeah, actually, buy it from Amazon. It's all over the internet. You can buy it.
Okay, cool.
I don't sell it personally because I'm leaving it to the publisher.
Yes,
and Amazon and publishing, company. Which
is Regnery Publishing, by the way, which is a great imprint. It's totally good. Anything by Regnery is good. All right, so I have to let's move to another chapter in your book. Many of my viewers know that I am a clinically trained marriage and family therapist. I have a master's in clinical psychology, and you actually have a whole chapter here on mental health. In chapter 10, it's mental health in the Bible versus mental health in Islam. I actually was surprised to see this chapter in your book, and can you elaborate on that? Because to the outsider, which I am, I look at somebody killing themselves as them being crazy, homicidal, in order to do what they're supposed to do. But anyway, I'll elaborate on that.
See, I'll tell you. Any religion should provide its followers with comfort, with guidance, and a sense of order and meaning in their lives. And human rights should not conflict with that religion. Any religion should have life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness as its motto. Islam does not evolve around life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Muslims are proud to say we love death and you love life. And it's true. Islam sacrificed the family, happiness, loyalty of the man to his wife. Loyalty. There is no loyalty from the husband because up to 4 wives. What kind of loyalty does a marriage, an Islamic marriage, give to a wife? Nothing. Because in the Muslim marriage contract, the Muslim man is asked, the husband, please name and address of wife number 1, wife number 2, and wife number 3, if any. So when you go into a marriage with only the woman vowing loyalty, because the woman cannot have a second or third or fourth husband, only the man. So the man does not vow loyalty to his wife as one and only. So the crack in the marriage happens at the inception. And that goes down. I mean, why is that? Because the man's loyalty, number 1, is jihad. It's not the woman. A woman is a means to bring more jihadis to the world. Okay? So when I read the Bible, I was really amazed that I felt that many of the verses in the Bible was talking about just a sound mind. It helps human nature. It's pro-human nature. It's pro-happiness. It gives you advice on what will make you shed your guilt, shed your pain, shed your suffering. This does not exist in Islam. For instance, if I show you the list of differences between biblical values and Islamic values, they are exactly the opposite. Right. They conflict with one another.
Have a list.
Exactly. For instance, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7.
Right.
And be not conformed to this world. The Bible does not ask us to conform to the opinions and the craziness of the world around us. He wants us to be transformed and renewed in our minds to become like Jesus.
Amen. Romans 12:2.
What a difference! Set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth. Let not your heart be troubled. These are all biblical values. There is nothing like that in Islam. Islam tells you conceal your sin. Conceal your sin. Don't, if you convert, you're dead. Everything, if you do anything that upsets them, you're killed. You're whipped. Your physical abuse is so common in Islam. Go on the internet, go on YouTube, if you don't believe me, and put physical abuse of maids and people in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, and you'll see how they whip people in the middle of the street, and nobody cares. So how can you have a sound mind in a society that resorts to humiliation and demeaning people and total physical abuse, a society that tells the husband to beat his wife? And then you see Muslim preachers coming on TV and saying, There is nothing wrong with beating your wife. In fact, it's a proof that we honor women. So you honor your wife by beating her. So under Islamic values, beating your wife is a kind of honoring your wife. So abuse becomes in Islam, abuse does not necessarily mean anger or hate. It is accepted as the norm. Even you love your wife, so beat her. So the confusion over what's right and wrong is totally confused in Islam. And when I became a Christian, the first thing I noticed, I now can differentiate between what is good and what's bad a lot better. And the relationship between Muslims and their God is not a healthy relationship. It's like a dysfunctional family relationship. Islam has a lot of resentment and spreading of hatred. 64% of the Quran is talking about who? Muslims? No. 64% of the Quran is talking about non-Muslims, the kafir, and what Muslims should do to hurt, kill, humiliate, terrorize the kafir. So, as a Muslim, my duty number one is not towards my family and making this world a better place. It's my first duty as a Muslim is to rid the world of Allah's enemies. Who are Allah's enemies? The kafir. Who are the kafir? Non-Muslims. In fact, the Sunnis call the Shiites kafir and the Shiites call Sunnis kafir. So the 90% of the world is kafir. And the duty of a Muslim is to get rid of them, kill them for Allah's sake, to please the God of Allah. What kind of healthy mind is that? And then there is a few doctrines in Islam that undermine mental health. Many doctrines. And one of them is called targhib wa tarhib. And it means seducing and luring at the same time. So Islam uses seduction and luring and terrorizing. So targhib means seducing. Tarhib means terrorizing. So Islam sanctions this doctrine. This is an Islamic doctrine. Tarhib wa targhib. And they apply it on everything. They apply it in rearing children. They apply it in preaching Islam. They tell them, start with targhib. Start with the seducing. Start with the luring. Read them the nice quotations on the Quran. And then show them the terror. Terrorize them. And when you do that, that's like KGB tactics to make people confess. You live under KGB tactics. There are terror tactics, and that is an Islamic doctrine of tarhib wa targhib. And they use it in dawah. And dawah in Arabic means preaching. And go on the internet if you don't believe me. Put tarhib wa targhib used for dawah. And you'll find Muslims advocating it. That I am not the one who's saying it. Tarhib wa targhib. Luring and terrorizing. So, and they use the same thing. Shame and pride. They bring up their kids on severe shaming and severe pride. And that is why they're so sensitive to any criticism. You criticize a Muslim, they shake. And they want to kill you and slap you. They're not like the West or the Bible, where you can hear criticism, and if it's constructive, you dialogue with it. And that Muslims don't know how to do that. You criticize anything. And by the way, Muhammad was very, very, very scared of, sensitive to criticism. And that's why he beheaded people who criticized him. There were 9 poets in Arabia. 9 poets. So the Muslim man who's hearing me now, go check what Muhammad did to the 9 poets who wrote poetry criticizing Muhammad. He beheaded them. One of them was a woman. And he asked for her head. And the person who killed her, he actually beheaded her while she was breastfeeding her baby.
Oh my gosh.
And that is the Prophet of Islam. And how dare he call me here, and I'm not a Muslim, asking me to say Prophet Muhammad? How dare you?
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, there is another doctrine in Islam that's terrible, also for mental health, and it's called al-wala wal-bara, meaning loyalty and enmity. So Islam tells Muslims who to be loyal to and who to hate, who their enemies are, who their friends should be. And that's why Muslims don't choose their friends. They will never have Jews and Christians as their friends, true friends. When the Intifada happened in Israel, a lot of the Muslims who were befriending Jews stopped the friendship because the Intifada started and said, you have to follow wala wal bara, loyalty and enmity. Your friends are decided by the society. Your enemies are decided by, not through interaction, not through I like Stacy, I want to be her friend, or I don't like a criminal because criminals are dangerous people, I don't want to befriend them. I don't want to befriend jihadis. Under Islam, my friendships are decided by Sharia. And that's another doctrine in Islam that is very detrimental to mental health.
Do you and see that is amazing to me because I didn't know most of what you just said, and it makes me think of during the recent years that the Lord has been appearing to Muslims all over the place because obviously they can't stop God, right, from doing that, and it gives me an appreciation as well for any Muslim that does convert to Christianity because it's a huge it's really a miracle. I mean, let's just say it that way. I think any conversion is, but in that particular thing, the conversion is that much more a miracle, I think.
Absolutely. And the problem with Islam is, I heard one time a top sheikh in Egypt say the following: we allow conversion if they want to convert, but it has to be in their mind. They cannot announce it. They cannot go to church and announce. They cannot marry Christians. So if you're in Egypt, for instance, and you want to be a Christian, yeah, you can be a Christian in your mind, but you have to behave as a Muslim. And that's another way of mental craziness. How can you practice a religion in your mind? So most of the people who are seeing images of Jesus coming to them, if you live in the Muslim world, then most probably they will suffer from mental illness eventually, because they cannot practice Christianity, they cannot go to church, they cannot announce it, they cannot hold a Bible, and they have to act like Muslims. They still have to pray Islamic, they have to fast, and they have to, like this gentleman asking me to call Muhammad a prophet. So they have to call Muhammad a prophet. And so it's all against what they believe in. And that's the craziness. That person in your audience right now who's asking me to call Muhammad a prophet is asking me to do something against my mental health. Something crazy. And that proves my point.
Yeah, that's And you know what? That's an amazing point, and I know we only got about 10 minutes left, and so those of you who are in the chat room, I see a whole bunch of you. If you guys have any questions for Nonie, because I seriously could talk a lot longer, and there's a whole bunch more in this book, and I encourage you to get it. I really do, and I don't recommend just any book, but all of her books are awesome. So let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'll watch here if any of you have any questions for Nonie. Great time. Rebecca says that she is praying for you, and she wants you to know that. So, Rebecca, thank you for that. We'll see. And you know, that's another question I'm sure a lot of people are wondering. I'm gonna assume you've had some death threats in your life since becoming a Christian. Is that accurate?
Yeah, of course. If that man who's asking me to call Muhammad a prophet when I'm living in America and I'm a Christian now, he's a symbol of what the people who want to hurt me. If I was in the Muslim world today, people will kill me. And of course there's death threats. I cannot visit Egypt anymore. I cannot visit any majority Muslim country because of people who, you disagree with them, they have to kill you. What kind of religion is that? And another thing that's against mental health in Islam is Sharia law itself. Sharia law commands Muslim men to do jihad and women. But what kind of religion commands men to have happiness only when they die for Allah? Happiness on this earth is not required. Just go and we'll give you happiness in heaven. Go kill yourself. Go kill yourself while you're killing Jews. And that's happiness, Islam? And we'll give you 72 virgins and forget about all your 4 wives on earth. That's the promises in Islam. That's very unhealthy for a man's mind.
Yeah.
And a Muslim head of state also has to lie. Why do you see Muslim head of states lying all the time? Because under Islam, they have to conduct jihad against neighboring non-Muslim countries. So a lot of people think Muslim leaders are all double-faced. But the reason they are like that is not because they're crazy. It's because under Islamic law, they are supposed to conduct jihad and never make peace with a non-Muslim country. So you have a Muslim head of state, he speaks to the West, he says, peace, peace, peace. He goes to the Muslim world, he says, jihad, jihad, jihad. He's not crazy, but he has to live under this pressure because Sharia tells him, if you don't conduct jihad, you will be removed from your office by force. And by force means by assassination. So every Muslim head of state is living under a death threat of being killed if he doesn't enforce Sharia and jihad. That's why Sadat was killed. Sadat was killed because he violated Sharia and was living under the stress of violating Sharia, and for that he was assassinated.
Wow.
And that's another insanity in Islam.
Okay, I have a couple questions here. I'm going to try to remember them because a couple of them came through. Okay, so Jennifer asks, what do you think about Muslim Americans who say that they are at peace with their faith? That's one question. And then I have another one.
Of course, they have been trained. And when I was a Muslim, I really believed Islam was a religion of peace, like everybody says that. The indoctrination is so strong because Islam has an attraction also. So Islam is not completely against human nature. In fact, Islam has a very strong element of abiding by human nature, but the dark side of human nature, which is the side that wants to be angry, the side that wants to lie, the side that wants to control others, in the Bible, it says control yourself only. We only, under biblical values, self-control is a value.
Right.
Self-control. Under Islam, controlling others is the value. So, and controlling others is part of human nature, by the way, but the dark side of human nature. You see babies when they're born, they're little kids, toddlers playing with each other, and they want to take each other's toys. And through socialization, we teach them to respect the property of others. And Islam tells the baby, take the property from the other person if he's a non-Muslim.
Good point. Okay.
So,
I have a couple more questions. I'm trying to get them in here. Okay, so Vicky asks, what is the biggest misconception Muslims have about Christians? I believe that's it.
well, they totally don't understand the Bible, just like Muhammad did. Muhammad did not understand the Bible, did not understand why it advocates freedom and truth. And so Muslims have fallen to the same trap of Muhammad on how he misunderstood the Bible, the Trinity. They don't understand that it's one God, because God sent us his son, his representative on earth in a human called Jesus. So Islam is so literal. So they proclaimed, oh, Christianity believes in 3 gods, which is a joke. Well, what is Muhammad then? What is a prophet? So what's the big deal about the word prophet? In my opinion, a prophet is somebody who's just who has a spiritual person is a prophet. Any spiritual person who really is committed to teaching people is a prophet. But Muhammad gave himself this name and said that nobody else will be a prophet after. What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
We're all prophets in a way.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering that. Okay, so Melanie wants to know what you think of President Trump.
I love him. This man never did drugs and never did alcohol. He has a mind like a sharp mind. And we have been having several presidents who were under the influence for a long time in their lives, including Bush, by the way.
That's right.
He was an alcoholic.
That's very true.
Obama was doing drugs. He admitted. Bill Clinton did drugs, and they were not good people, in my opinion.
Okay.
And Trump, in my opinion, is God sent to this country.
I agree with you. Okay, Carlos, who I believe is not a Christian but an atheist, and he's a proud atheist. He came in and he made a comment, and forgive me, Carlos, if I don't get it perfect because they're coming through, and I'm trying to get it. But he said that it sounds like you're a full-on Zionist. What do you say to that?
Absolutely, I'm a Zionist. I'm not Jewish, but I'm a Zionist. Absolutely,
I am too, by the way.
Because I believe that the Holy Land belongs to the Jews. And Islam conquered it on purpose to eliminate the memory of the Jews in the Middle East and built a mosque on top of their temple on purpose. So they end the memory of Jews, but unfortunately the Jews, they kept the memory alive, thank God.
Amen. All right. Okay.
By the way, I want to tell Carlos something about atheism. Atheists live in America thinking they have discovered freedom on its own. They are living under biblical values in America. You want to be a true atheist, go live in the Soviet Union when it was declared religion as an enemy of humanity. I believe atheists should form their own government, that because you guys are calling yourself atheists, but you're living under biblical values. The legal system in America is a biblical value. The Constitution in America is the nice people you see on the street who say God bless you are biblical values.
60
All this
seconds.
is biblical value. You're enjoying biblical values. Atheism, it will not provide you with solutions to the better things in life that we're incapable of having just on our own.
Amen. And there is where we're going to end Blog Talk Radio. But if you guys in the chat room and Periscope will hold on, Nonie will stay a few minutes after to talk to more of your questions. Tell them, Nonie, where everybody can get your book again for Blog Talk Radio.
By the way, no excuse. Go buy my book, and it comes in audio also. There are CDs. I narrated my book. So if you don't like to sit and read and you drive a lot, get my CDs, stick them in the car, and you will learn
10
so
seconds.
much the blessings of this country, of this great country we live in. And this, America is not perfect, but it's not perfect because the Bible is wrong. It's because we're humans and we're not conveying the Bible perfectly. Because we are short. We are short, not the Bible is short. But we are doing our best to live under biblical values. And thank you, America. Thank you, America, for giving me my freedom as a woman.
Amen. Okay, everybody. Blog Talk Radio listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. And remember, we'll be back tomorrow for Free for All Friday.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Okay, so Nonie, how much time do you have? Like 5-10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
She's open at everybody in a Periscope. So so you guys who want to ask Nonie a couple more questions, she's here to serve you and answer your questions. See, didn't I tell you this was going to be a good conversation? I thought so. And really, I mean, I could talk to you for like days, I'm sure. Summer says, inspiring, not umpiring, LOL, laugh out loud. So that's that's good. Carlos,
You have very, very good listeners.
I do. Well, Carlos,
Smart.
yeah, Carlos said, quote, buy my book. Carlos, this is a radio show. This is what we do. We interview people so they can sell their book. Duh.
Absolutely. I want my books to sell because the reason my publisher bought it
Right.
from me
Uh-huh.
is because they found value in it.
Right.
And it's an experience of a woman who lived under the oppression of Islam.
Yeah.
And I love this country so much that and you know what? Somebody read my book and wrote to me that you made me love my Bible and love America more.
There you go.
Yeah.
Summer says spreading the message of love. And Rebecca says she has valuable testimony, of course. I mean, duh. Okay, so Vicky says, I was going to say that, LOL, when you have a message you want to get out. And then Rebecca said, amen. Okay, Jeffrey says, how do you address religion of peace argument applied to Islam? That's a good question.
Well, Islam allows lying. And I have never heard the word Islam is a religion of peace. When I lived in the Muslim world, all I heard was Islam is a religion of jihad. Somehow, after 9/11, somebody went into the ear of Bush and told him Islam is a religion of peace, and that's when it started, the word started. But I have never heard that ever in my life except by George W. Bush, who was trying to appease Muslims.
Right, and I agree. So Carlos responds to your comment, he's the atheist, who says, I'm a sweet kid, but she is just a slightly twisted look at how we work in America.
Well, that's his opinion. I respect that.
There you go. And he is sweet. He actually is a sweet guy. He's not a mean atheist.
No. I would rather deal with the atheists, of course, than a twisted religion. That's more honest, at least.
Yeah, and you know what? I think atheists have honest questions. I mean,
and by the way, I have the right. I respect the right of anyone to be an atheist. I'm not against atheists, but I just want them to be aware that in America they're living under biblical values.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Vicky says that in America you're free to say that without being stoned.
Exactly.
Right? And
Well, the feminists, I have a chapter on feminism. The feminists in the 60s in America, they were media darlings and they were celebrities. None of them was stoned or nobody threw acid on them. So that's another good thing, that biblical cultures don't stone women who ask for their rights. Only Islamic cultures that make it illegal.
And that's the reason why I think your book is valuable. And I know that there's other women. There's a Brigitte Gabriel, and there's a Pamela Geller, and there's others out there.
Sultan and Ayan Hirsi Ali.
Yeah, I mean, there's these other women, and this is okay. Let me ask you this, because as a woman, and I'm not looking at your comments, I'm trying to look at Nonie camera. As a woman, not only does it terrify me that Sharia law can become ingrained and a part of America in the future. Way worse. Not only killing Christians and stuff, but the abuse of women. That's one thing. But one of the things that I don't understand is where the heck, and that's not the word I want to use, but where are the men who are out there, sounding the trumpet like you are? I mean, where are the men at? Where are the men who are former Muslims and they're out there? I mean,
actually, there are. I know Mark Gabriel, Mark Christian, and Mark Gabriel.
I haven't heard of them.
These are two former. There is the one who drew the cartoon, the Muhammad cartoon. He was also a former Muslim from Albania. He's a man and he writes very well. So there's a few men.
Okay.
It's just women are more. We talk a lot more.
Passionate. So Carlos says, so by not getting dragged through the street, I'm under biblical values.
Yeah, you're enjoying freedoms that are given to us by God, not by the state. The minute we regard our freedom comes either from God or from the state. Do you want to have it from God or from the state? If you want your freedom to come from the state can take it back from you.
That's a good point.
God will never take back your freedom from you. That's one reason to believe in the Bible. You can be an atheist if you want to and believe in biblical values as good values. You don't have to be an enemy of the Bible if you're an atheist. The Bible does not care if you're an atheist or not. It's Islam that kills people who leave Islam. Christians don't kill people who leave Christianity. So you are perfectly free to appreciate values of the Bible, but still continue to be an atheist.
All right. And David has a question. He wants to know, is there any hope for salvation for gays in Islam?
No, in Islam, there's nothing called. By the way, Islam is very contradictory regarding gay. They throw them from buildings. So anybody who's discovered to have gay inclinations, even, they totally want to kill them. Just like women. Stone her.
Right.
So under Islam, there is no hope for gay. But there's only Islam, when it comes to jihadists, they have given them the right to do anything and be forgiven for anything. And it has given them the right to choose boys in the heaven of Islam. So they promise, if you become a jihadist, you go to heaven, you will have boys who are as pretty as pearls. That's in the Quran.
Yeah,
But you have to die as a jihadist.
You gotta blow yourself up, yeah.
So there is hope. There's hope for gay people in Islam only. They go kill themselves to kill the enemies of Allah in order to have fun with little boys in the heaven of Islam. I am quoting the Quran. That's not my opinion.
Okay, and Summer wants to know, what does Islam think of the Bible?
That it's It's wrong. Islam, Muhammad could not understand the Bible. 600 years after Christ, the whole Middle East was Christian and Jewish. Arabia was started to be penetrated by Christian ideas and Jewish ideas. Medina was actually a Jewish town with Jewish tribes living in it. So it came a point in the 7th century, a point whereby Arabia was about to convert to Christianity. And Muhammad didn't want that to happen. He could not understand the Bible, and he wanted a purely Arabian faith. He wanted a faith that confirms Arabian values and not discredit it. He wanted Al-Kaaba to be the center of the pilgrims, not Jerusalem. That's why Muslims conquered Jerusalem, to preserve Mecca as the number one. So he wanted to keep the pilgrimage in Kaaba. He did not want to be loyal to the Byzantine Empire, which was the Christian empire at that time, headquartered in Turkey, in Byzantium. Egypt was part of Byzantium. Egypt at that time was a Christian nation. And Muhammad came up with Islam as a rebellion against the Bible. He did not want the Bible because the Bible was going to totally change the values of Arabia. It was going to tell them marriage is one man, one woman. Muhammad wanted the harem. He had a harem. He didn't want to convert to the Bible. Yeah. He wanted to preserve the values of Arabia, and that's why he created a religion that was a rebellion against the Bible and called the Bible corrupt.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you one last question because my voice is starting to feel scratchy here. And Summer wants to know, where did Muhammad think he came from? A good question too.
Where did he came from? By physically delivered his mom or Arabia? He was a very ethnocentric man. The word ethnocentric is an anthropological term. People who think their culture is the only right culture on earth, and everybody has to change for their sake. So I believe Muhammad was the most ethnocentric person.
Okay, she means, I guess she wants to know
ancestry.
Yeah, his ancestry.
He was an Arab, and he tried to link himself with the Bible, but he didn't succeed because Abraham, he called his religion an Abrahamic religion, but in fact, Abraham had nothing to do with Mecca, and Abraham never visited Mecca. He did not create the Kaaba, but that's what Muhammad said. He wanted legitimacy. So to get legitimacy at that time, he linked himself to Abraham. At the same time, he reprimanded the Jews and Christians for Bible and called them that they have falsified the Bible, and he is now bringing the real Bible, the real good holy book, and their book is bad.
Yeah, this has been very good. Everybody's saying thank you for coming in. And I, of course, want to thank you for your extra time. You've been on almost 2 hours.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
So, okay, everybody, go get Nonie's book. Okay, just go buy it. Wholly Different, Why I Chose Biblical Values Over Islamic Ones. She's giving you a ton to think about, as you all know, because you've been listening for the whole show. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm sure you'll come back, right? We'll talk again.
Anytime, you know how to reach me. Anytime.
Okay.
Thank you.
As everybody's saying, many blessings on you, prayers for her. And I just want to end this by telling you all, remember, be bold, stand up. and go with God because He loves you. And we will be back here tonight at 7:30ish, give or take, for our evening daily Bible reading. So we'll see you then.